Well, hello and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for all for joining us today for October 2022 ACES quarterly event. Today we have the Snohomish Health District's Trauma and Resilience team presenting on building resilience, practicing cultural humility, and cultivating compassion for ourselves and others. Before we dive into the material, we'll do a quick introduction of our trauma and resilience team. There are three professionals on the Snohomish Health District's Trauma and Resilience team, two public health nurses and one behavioral health specialist. The Trauma and Resilience team creates and presents curriculum for other teams within the health district, for women at homeless shelters, for various conferences and agencies in the region, and for special populations such as immigrants and refugees and those transitioning to a new job. So my name is Sue Starr, and I'm a public health nurse in the maternal child health program at the Snohomish Health District. I attended the University of Washington, and I graduated in 1987. I've worked at the Snohomish Health District for the past 32 years, and I spent my career working with families and children in public health programs. And in addition to the trauma resilience team, I'm currently working with children and youth with special health care needs. I'm on the child death review board. Um, I co-chair the perinatal mental health task force, help coordinate the ACEs quarterly events, but I especially love teaching about resilience because resilience offers so much hope to people who have experienced trauma.
Hi everyone, my name is Melinda Losvoy and I am a public health nurse in the maternal child health program at the Snohomish Health District. I attended the University of Washington Bothell School of Nursing and Health Studies and graduated in 2018. In addition to the Trauma and Resilience team, I also work in other maternal child health programs, including the lactation program, the Childhood Lead Poisoning Prevention Program, and I'm a co-facilitator on the Snohomish County Perinatal Mental Health Task Force. I've worked at the Snohomish Health District for over a year this past August.
Hi, everybody. My name is Emily Greenleaf, and I am a behavioral health specialist in the maternal child health program at the Snohomish Health District. I attended Western Washington University and graduated in 2014. I am also currently in the process of getting my master's in clinical mental health counseling. I have a strong clinical background working with young children experiencing atypical development and challenging behaviors. And in addition to the trauma and resilience team, I also work on the child care health outreach program, and I provide support in the childhood lead poisoning prevention program. And I have been with the health district for about a year now. Right, and here is our agenda for today's ACES quarterly event. After attending today's ACES quarterly, you will have learned the comprehensive strategies for building resilience, the difference between cultural competence and cultural humility, the benefits and physiology of self-compassion, as well as the importance of cultivating and practicing compassion with those around you. We will wrap up our event with a Q&A session, and if you have any questions that arise during the presentation, we encourage you to type them out in the chat, and we will do our best to answer all of the questions during the question and answer portion.
All right, thanks Emily for walking us through today's ACES quarterly agenda. So let's start off with our first topic of building resilience strategies. So before we can develop resilience strategies, we need to know what resilience means. Some definitions of resilience include the ability to adapt and persevere when faced with a challenge and to become strong, healthy, and successful again afterward. Another definition of resilience is the ability to meet challenges, thrive, and do well despite adversity. The last definition we have here simply states that resilience is a natural human capacity to navigate life well. There are 4 strategies for building resilience, and they are self-regulation, healthy and positive relationships, positive internal beliefs, and taking action.
So our first strategy for building resilience is self-regulation. This is the ability to experience and manage various emotions and express them in appropriate, effective ways. It is important to note that self-regulation can be learned and practiced, particularly through stress management techniques.
The resilience strategy of self-regulation includes being able to identify your own feelings, removing and or distracting yourself from a stressful situation, and finding your calm. To identify your feelings, you must get curious and remove judgment. It is important to be specific in identifying your feelings and to avoid using vague feeling words such as good, bad, or stressed. Instead, be more specific and use a more descriptive word that closely describes how you're feeling. On the right of the slide, we have more descriptive words you can use. And finally, take time to reflect on your feelings. So what caused you to feel a certain way, how it is impacting your behavior, and how you will move forward with the feeling. When you're feeling stressed, you can identify which zone your stress level is in. In the low stress zone, the green, you may still feel calm, have a steady heart rate, be aware of your surroundings, and still feel supported and in control. In the moderate stress zone, the yellow, you may start to experience feelings of nervousness, have an increased heart rate, and sweating, you remain aware of your surroundings, and you're able to identify needed supports. In the high stress zone, the red, you may experience feelings of panic or overwhelm, have an increased heart rate and sweating, be unable to think straight, become unaware of your surroundings, and unable to problem solve.
So, if with self-regulation, if you need to, allow yourself to step away from the stressful situation for a bit. If necessary, talk to your supervisor or coworker and just take a break. If that's just not possible, engage in another work-related activity that it engages the right side of your brain. Activities like singing, poetry, dancing, laughing, going outside, building something, all engage the right side of your brain. You're essentially distracting your limbic system, the emotional part of your brain, so that emotions won't seem as powerful and overwhelming. It's important to come back to the situation when you're ready and ask for what you need. And now we're going to talk about finding your calm as part of self-regulation. Find a practice that works for you. It may be prayer, journaling, yoga, deep breathing, or meditation. Find what feels comfortable for you and works with your lifestyle. Pick a time of day when you can consistently practice becoming calm and centered. This will build up your skill set for the moments where you are craving calm. You do not have to be perfect at doing this. Have grace with yourself. It's good to note that people who do practice one or more of these activities regularly feel less anxiety and depression overall. Now I want to talk about equanimity. Equanimity is a mental calmness, composure, and evenness of temper, especially in a difficult situation. We must learn to give compassion to others and then let go. In a caregiving situations, equanimity reminds us of our limited control over others' suffering and allows us to get perspective so that compassion can arise. Equanimity allows us to stay connected and emotionally disentangled at the same time. Our capacity to help is limited by the fact that we have separate bodies and separate lives. We can only do the best we can to help. So now we're going to do a 5-minute meditation. You can feel free not to participate if you don't feel comfortable. You can definitely turn off your camera. I just want to explain that if
Neighbors. And each of these
there are circumstances where someone is suffering, Maybe a coworker has breast cancer, or one of your clients has a developmentally delayed young adult child who's acting out and breaking the law. And you care about these people, but you can't control their choices. And in this exercise, we'll be able to look at the concept of equanimity. So I invite you to find a comfortable position and close your eyes or avert your gaze. Take a few deep breaths to settle into your body and into the present moment. You might like to put your hand over your heart or wherever it is comforting and soothing as a reminder to bring affectionate awareness to your experience and to yourself. Bring to mind someone you are caring for who is exhausting you or frustrating you. Someone you care about who is suffering. For this exercise, choose someone who is not your own child, as this can be a more complicated dynamic. Visualize the person and the caregiving situation clearly in your mind and feel the struggle in your own body. Now listen to the following words, letting them gently roll through your mind. We are each on our own life journey. I am not the cause of this person's suffering, nor is it entirely within my power to make it go away, even though I wish I could. Moments like this are difficult to bear, yet I may still try to help if I can. Aware of the stress you're carrying in your body, inhale fully and deeply, drawing compassion inside your body and filling every cell of your body with compassion. Let yourself be soothed by inhaling deeply and by giving yourself the compassion that you need. As you exhale, send out compassion to the person who is associated with your discomfort. Continue breathing compassion in and out, allowing your body to gradually find a natural breathing rhythm. Let your body breathe itself. One for me, one for you. In for me, out for you. Occasionally scan your inner landscape for any distress and respond by inhaling compassion for yourself,
Relationship and have these
compassion for the other. If you find that anyone needs extra compassion, focus your attention and your breath more in that direction. Let yourself float on an ocean of compassion, a limitless, boundless ocean that embraces all suffering. Take in these words once again. We are each on our own life journey. I am not the cause of this person's suffering, nor is it entirely within my power to make it go away, even though I wish I could. Moments like this are difficult to bear, yet I may still try to help if I can. Now let go of the practice and allow yourself to be exactly as you are in this moment. And you can gently open your eyes. And if you like, you can turn your camera back on.
Thank you, Sue, for leading us in that meditation.
Mhm.
So our second strategy for building resilience is healthy and positive relationships. Research has shown us that experiencing trusting, safe, and supportive relationships in various contexts is a critical piece for facing life's stressors and for building our resilience. So we will start by taking an inventory, examining our existing relationships, and asking if those entail a healthy life-affirming dynamic. Next, we will discuss the importance of listening and what active listening really looks like. And finally, we will talk about showing you care. This is an important component for building any healthy relationship, and care can be demonstrated in many ways. And here we would like to share a quote that we have paraphrased from Bruce Perry. It reads, "The more healthy relationships a person has, the more likely he or she will recover from the trauma and thrive. Relationships are the agent of change, and the most powerful therapy is human love." So when taking an inventory of your existing relationships, it's important to start by considering what kind of relationship it is. We hold relationships with family, friends, colleagues at work, spiritual leaders, romantic partners, and even with our neighbors. And each of these types of relationships will be comprised of different dynamics, boundaries, and expectations. Some good questions to ask yourself when you're examining your relationships include, which of these relationships is energizing, supportive, and trusting? What are the boundaries and expectations in this relationship? And have these been clearly communicated and mutually agreed upon? When you're seeking out and developing new relationships, you may consider how you met the people in your life that you're closest to now. Or maybe there is a cause you're passionate about where you might like to volunteer and meet like-minded individuals. Or perhaps a hobby or activity you would like to pursue, a class that you could connect creatively with others. Or maybe you lost touch with somebody and you'd like to reach out and reconnect with them. Also, getting to know yourself and your personality type can be helpful when developing boundaries in your relationships. So, are you an introvert or an extrovert, and how does this impact your relational capacity? Scheduling time for yourself is important, and knowing what that individual need looks like will aid in communicating your expectations. And finally, it's important to know the signs that may indicate an unhealthy relationship to help you maintain your boundaries and advocate for yourself. So, knowing the signs of an unhealthy relationship will help you recognize when the dynamic may need to be addressed. I do want to note that an unhealthy relationship is not necessarily an abusive relationship, but some signs that a relationship may have an unhealthy dynamic can include not feeling seen, heard, or understood by the other person, feeling as though conflict in the relationship is always your fault, not feeling positive or good about yourself after spending time with someone, receiving frequent criticism or put downs from another person, yourself and the other person tries to create distance between you and other people in your life. Noticing any of these dynamics in your existing relationships may indicate that it's time to reevaluate the boundaries. And whether you are emphasizing your existing boundaries and expectations or creating new ones, it's important to clearly express what you expect, determine what is and is not okay, and be clear about when you are and are not available. Communicating these expectations will provide the opportunity for both parties to come to a mutual understanding. And finally, remember to prioritize your safety. Seek professional support if you need it. You can visit www.thehotline.org or call 1-800-799-SAFE, which is 7233.
Okay, so with any of our relationships, be it with work colleagues, clients, patients, friends, family members, a romantic partner, deep listening is an important skill to practice. Deep listening is the first step toward compassion. It's also essential to avoiding miscommunication. Deep listening is a form of contemplative practice. It can be taught and learned. A good listener is attentive and avoids the impulse to offer interpretations, advice, or judgment. It can be tempting to jump to these responses because as humans, we are co-feeling, and it can be uncomfortable to be in the presence of someone else's pain. Some signs of a deep listener on the right, of the slide includes one who makes good eye contact with the person. They provide nonverbal cues of engagement. They don't speak while the other is speaking. They practice patience, they focus on the speaker, and they maintain open body language. So
Scheduling time for yourself is important.
who interrupts the person speaking, they try to relate to the person's sharing or demonstrate expertise, or they are distracted, like they check their phone or watch while someone else is talking. They may make poor eye contact, discount what the person is sharing, and have closed body language overall. Good listening is important in both our personal lives and in our professional lives. Demonstrating that you are truly listening
That individual
can impact how others feel about you, themselves, and influence the relationship that you have. So do you have someone you can turn to and open up to? And are you someone that another person can turn to and open up to? Here we have a quote by Sue Patton Thole about listening that states, "Deep listening is miraculous for both listener and speaker. When someone receives us with open-hearted, non-judging, intensely interested listening, our spirits expand." So here we have a video that we made to demonstrate poor listening.
Hey Sue,
Hi,
how's it going?
it's fine. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I was wondering if you had a moment to talk.
Let me see. Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks
sure.
for listening.
Sure.
I'm just feeling really stressed out lately.
Oh,
I started school, so
I have been feeling stressed out too.
You
Isn't that
have?
something?
yeah, it's
Yeah,
awful.
really stressful.
Yeah, I've got work and school, and I'm trying to find the balance and juggle my home life, and I've been using my planner and trying to plan everything out.
What you should
but
do is you should use your phone to plan things out.
use my phone.
Hi, Archie. Yeah, Archie. Oh, yeah.
To help you maintain.
Yeah, maybe like 2 minutes. You have 2 minutes. So can you wait for just 2 minutes? Okay, great.
I'm sorry, is this a bad time?
No. He understands. I mean, it's okay.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you had any tips or suggestions for time
Well,
management.
The phone, keeping track with your
The
phone. Yeah,
Okay.
do that. That'll
Okay.
help a lot.
Oh, I'll
Yeah,
try
set
that.
alarms and, hold on, I'm just getting
Yeah.
an email.
Well, I really appreciate you listening.
Anytime, Emily, like, it's all good, yeah. I mean, I think you're also exaggerating, this whole thing. It's not like that bad.
You're probably right. Hey, Sue.
Okay, and here we have a video that we made to demonstrate deep listening.
Hey, Melinda. Hi, Emily. How are you?
I'm good, how are you?
I'm doing okay. I was wondering if you had a minute to talk.
Yeah.
Oh,
What's
thank
up?
you. I'm just feeling a little bit stressed out today. I started school recently, and I've got so much homework and work. I'm trying to juggle my home life. So just feeling overwhelmed, but trying to find the balance. I've been using my planner. I've got like 3 calendars, maybe too much. But I was just wondering if you had any tips or suggestions. It seems like you're really good at time management.
Oh, well, thanks for sharing with me how you're feeling.
Thank you for listening.
That's a lot to handle, juggling school, work, personal life. It sounds like you already have a good system with time management, but I think maybe scheduling in some personal time to do something that you enjoy, so you can rest, relax, rejuvenate, get energy to do that
sounds
homework.
great. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you for the advice. I appreciate you
You're
listening.
welcome. You're welcome anytime.
Have a good day, Melinda.
You too.
So to develop healthy and positive relationships, it is important to show that you care about the other person. There are many ways to show that you care. Your care can be demonstrated through acts of service,
It's not necessarily an abusive.
or spending quality time with the person you care about, doing an activity that you both can enjoy together, listening to the other person and what they have to say, providing affirmations and compliments to the other person, such as reminding them that you love them and how awesome you think they are, giving gifts, and finally, physical touch, such as giving a warm and comforting hug.
Okay, so our third strategy for building resilience is positive internal beliefs. What you believe to be true about yourself and your capabilities matters. The script you play in your head and the beliefs that you hold impact how you feel, what you do, and the dynamic that you hold with those around you.
Yes, so with the third strategy, positive internal beliefs, this includes having self-compassion, identifying your strengths, and positive affirmations. So self-compassion entails a process of mindfulness, recognizing common humanity, and practicing self-kindness. Mindfulness is when you are able to identify a thought and feeling and name its experience, such as identifying a moment as a moment of suffering and naming the feelings that come with it, such as feelings of stress and hurt. Common humanity is when you're able to recognize that there are other people who feel the same way you feel as well. It's recognizing that you are not alone in feeling the way you are feeling, and recognizing that the pain you may be experiencing as a shared human experience. Self-kindness involves practicing being kind to yourself. It's telling yourself that it's okay to feel stressed, sad, or hurt, but also telling yourself that even when you're feeling stressed, sad, or hurt, you are still worthy of love and belonging, and you are not defined by your feelings in the moment that you are feeling pain. You also practice giving yourself the compassion that you need.
Another strategy for strengthening our positive internal beliefs is to identify your strengths. Using our top 5 strengths can help us to problem solve, and the side effect of using them is joy. Our strengths are the essence of who we are, so knowing and using our character strengths is just being who we were meant to be. And knowing and embracing our character strengths is a resilience strategy. It is interesting to note that among high school graduates,
Receiving free
of hope was a better predictor of future success than that students' SAT scores. These signature strengths are often accurate and very powerful. We all have character strengths, and at some point I would recommend that you go to this website, the www.viacharacter.org, and I would recommend that you go and take this short survey to find out what your top 5 signature character strengths are. For now, we're going to look at categories of strengths and the specific character strengths within the categories. And by looking at these, you can consider which 5 strengths are your top 5 strengths. You could take a guess. So on this slide, we have 24 character strengths from the VIA Institute on Character. The bold words are categories of the signature character strengths. And the non-bold words are the 24 character strengths. So you'll see things like bravery, love, leadership, forgiveness. For a person who has the strength of honesty and authenticity, they would have a really hard time being fake, and it would be just about impossible for them to do that. For somebody who has the strength of loving and being loved, they really seem to find the lovable in even those that are hard to love. And it's just a strength that they have with them. And these character strengths usually endure over the lifetime of the person. So here are some positive affirmations. You can use these affirmations, or better yet, you can create some yourself. Things like, I'm kind, I'm smart, I'm important. I owe myself the love that I so freely give to other people. Whatever happens today, I will move forward and do the next right thing. And I will be gentle with myself when I get stuck. Another way that you can recite affirmations just to make all your passwords on your devices and like different apps into you can make them into affirmations like I am incredible, like all one word, I am incredible number 1, or I am strong 12. You enter those passwords multiple times each day, and you internalize the messages that you're entering, and you're internalizing what you're saying to yourself. And so enjoy this video of Jessica, who is standing in front of the mirror, which is always a good idea. And she's reciting her affirmations and she's saying them like she means them. And that's what you need to do.
Look, I can be a shark. Now my whole house is great. I can do anything good. I like my school. I like anything. I like my dad. I like my cousins. I like my aunts. I like my Allisons. I like my moms. I like my sisters. I like my dad. I like my hair. I like my haircuts. I like my pajamas. I like my stuff. I like my rooms. I like my whole house. My whole house is great. I can do anything good. Yeah. I can do anything good. Better than anyone. Better than anyone.
Okay, so now let's talk about hope and what that looks like. So hope is a feeling of expectation and desire for a certain thing to happen.
Hope is a function of struggle. We develop hope not during the easy or comfortable times, but through adversity and discomfort. And that's by C.R. Snyder. Snyder and associates developed the adult hope scale, which assesses goal-directed thinking in any given moment or situation. And with the adult hope scale, we measure a person's perception of their agency or their belief in themselves, and also their problem-solving ability at a given moment in time. The scale is a self-report questionnaire designed to tap into a person's perception of how they experience hope. The hope scale has been proven to be reliable and valid. And the trauma and resilience team measures hope with the hope scale before and after we provide training on resilience and on adversity in the homeless shelters. And we usually see a big difference. This is a quote about cultivating hope. Hope is that thing inside us that insists, despite all evidence to the contrary, that something better awaits us if we have the courage to reach for it and to work for it and to fight for it. And that was Barack Obama in the Iowa caucus victory speech.
Okay, our fourth and final strategy for building resilience is taking action. Taking initiative, creating a plan, and moving forward in a positive direction will help you face stressors and also develop skills to effectively solve problems as stressors arise. The key is to get going.
So we're going, as a part of taking action, we're going to talk about the problem-solving matrix, motivation, learning how to say no, a stress resilience plan, and then asking for help. So here's a problem-solving matrix example. In the far left column, you can write down a problem that you can identify that needs solving. And in this case, it was deciding where a son was going to be living. And then in the second column, I listed character strengths, my character strengths after doing the survey. So they are perseverance or persistence, equity and justice, honesty and authenticity, to love and be loved, and open-mindedness or critical thinking. So in the third column, I'm identifying ways to use the character strengths to work at solving the problem. So with perseverance, and I forgot to mention that we had a situation where it was not a happy home situation, and it was this problem that needed to be solved. So we sought professional support and counsel. That was a part of the perseverance that was done over and over again. And also maintaining boundaries with perseverance. With equity and justice, I set up rules that were good for me and for him, and rules that were fair for both of my children. With honesty and authenticity, I was definitely clear and gave a heads up on what was going to happen if things didn't change. The quality or character strength of love and being loved is that rules supported healthy relationships. And then the last one, open-mindedness and critical thinking. I used books and therapists and professionals and really far-reached, used a lot of resources in the community, and did a lot of critical thinking about those different resources and how it all fit together. So that's just an example of how you can do that as well with a problem you have and your strengths, and then what you can do to use your strengths to solve the problem.
So now we will talk about how motivation follows action. Emotions bring about natural behavioral reactions. For example, if you're feeling sad about something, a natural behavior that you may want to do is to isolate yourself, avoid doing things that you should do. You may feel unmotivated and just want to sit in bed all day long and do nothing but eat or sleep. With that being said, sometimes acting on that natural behavior is not in your best interest. So instead of doing what you would naturally want to do, it's important to try and do the opposite actions. Opposite actions to take, for example, when you're feeling sad, include going out for a walk, calling a friend, or watching a funny video. This practice can be referenced to dialectical behavior therapy. Its main goals are to teach people how to live in the moment, develop healthy ways to cope with stress, regulate their emotions, and improve their relationships with others. So, as part of taking action, it is also important to learn how to say no and ask for help when you need it. Often, our overwhelm can stem from overcommitting and piling too much onto our shoulders. Some of our commitments are unavoidable, like taking care of our kids, going to work, submitting taxes, going to the doctor, but other things may pile up from our desire to please others or to do it all. There might also be fear of what might happen if we say no. It's important to remember that when we overextend ourselves, we cannot fulfill any of our responsibilities to the best of our potential. So saying no to some commitments means that we get to say yes to the ones that really matter. So on this slide is a list of some ways that you can say no. Some examples include, unfortunately, I can't take that on right now. Can you ask me next time? Or I have a lot on my plate right now. I'll let you know if anything changes. So consider all that you have on your plate right now. Is there anything you need to say no to or anything that you need to ask for help with? You can also take action by developing a stress resilience action plan. In a stress resilience action plan, you would set a SMART goal in each category of the color wheel seen on the right. A SMART goal is specific, measurable, achievable, relevant or realistic, and time-bound. The stress buster categories include having a balanced nutrition, mindfulness practices, physical activity, quality sleep, supportive relationships, and mental health care. The goals for each of these categories can be small. It's important to write them down and to tell someone about your goals to help keep you accountable and on track with your goals. It's also important to remember to be kind to yourself and know that it's okay if you don't meet all of these goals at the same time. Know that nobody is perfect and that you can revise your stress resilience action plan as needed. So here's a table with examples of a stress resilience action plan that includes goals that are SMART. So for example, in the stress buster category of physical activity, a SMART goal could be going for a walk for 30 minutes every evening. Or in the stress buster category of mindfulness practice, a SMART goal could be writing 3 things you're grateful for in a journal every morning or night. So now let's take some time to identify a category that you would like to take action in and set one SMART goal for that category. We'll take a few minutes here. You can raise your hand to share your SMART goal or type it out in the chat. Someone else's page. Measurable, achievable, relevant or realistic, and time bound. So we'll spend some time here, and Sue and Emily, if you can read any comments that come in, that would be great as well. On the right of the slide.
You can also just say it if you want to just unmute yourself and just say something. That's acceptable too.
So I just say that I just need to drink more water.
Hmm.
More water, walk more, and sleep more.
Thank
Not just a
you.
balanced nutrition, but a balanced sleep and physical.
Nonverbal cues of engagement.
Very good.
Thank you. And it looks
Ann
like
Hoffman.
Anne,
Mhm.
oh
Go
yeah,
ahead, Emily. Go ahead.
Anne said walk at least 5 days per week. Thank you, Anne. I know for myself, sometimes when I set a goal, daily can feel a little overwhelming or like it's maybe setting me up to fail. So I might shoot for 2 or 3 days a week to start out with on my less busy days and just kind of alter it as it fits. Okay, so I am going to share a quote on resilience by Dr. Michael Ungar from the Resilience Research Center. It reads, "Resilience is our ability to navigate and negotiate for the resources we need to do well in the face of significant difficulty." And this quote serves as a good reminder that we all need help sometimes, and it is okay to ask for help. You must take care of yourself in order to effectively care for others. So we have provided some resources here, some links to find mental health services, the National Domestic Violence Hotline, Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, which you can call or text either of those, and some phone numbers for local behavioral health clinics. And then here are some additional resources for mental health support. And I believe we'll put together something to send out to all of the attendees with these links on here so you can access these. There are some great mindfulness and meditation resources, as well as some free self-paced workbooks that you can download. So we will share these with you after the event.
Okay, here is a quote by Dr. Meg Jay, psychologist. She says, resilience is more about strength and bravery than it is about elasticity and bouncing back. Sometimes we think of resilience as like a rubber band, or just bounce back, no problem, but that's not often the case. She goes on to say that living out of the average and living through difficult times is complicated, and it's a complicated place to be. And many people who have experienced adversity feel very isolated with similar problems and unaware that they are not as alone or as different as they think. Life in general is messy, so therefore resilience is messy. For example, people who experience trauma often need years of therapy to recover. And this is understandable and is necessary. And this is not something to be ashamed of.
What the person is sharing and have.
It's supposed to make you feel bad. Let's see, other people have similar stories and are doing the same thing, getting help, and that is resilience. Some of you may be familiar with this saying by Thich Nhat Hanh, no mud, no lotus. So in order to have a beautiful flower, you have to work with the mud.
Okay, now we are going to talk about cultural humility. In a multicultural world where many power imbalances exist, cultural humility is a process of openness, self-awareness, being egoless, and incorporating self-reflection and critique after willingly interacting with diverse individuals. Cultural humility is something to be continually practiced rather than something to be achieved. Remaining open and self-aware is key to continual growth. So avoid assuming that you are already an expert on an individual's culture, and be sure to reflect on your interactions with others. The results of practicing cultural humility are mutual empowerment, respect, partnerships, optimal care, and lifelong learning.
So when do we need cultural humility? The answer is always, but even more so under the following conditions. One, if there is diversity or the existence of many cultures. And two, if there are any power imbalances, such as white privilege or group membership. Here's some components of cultural humility: openness, a willingness to explore new ideas, self-awareness, like understanding of one's own beliefs, values, privilege, and power, being egoless, viewing the worth of all individuals on a horizontal plane and being humble, the presence of supportive interactions characterized by positive exchanges, and the presence of self-reflection, a lifelong process of continual reflection on one's thoughts, feelings, actions, and beliefs.
So we are intentional in using the term cultural humility instead of cultural competence due to some of the reasons listed here in this slide. Cultural competence is information focused and egocentric. It says that you have a confidence in yourself for having learned all about a culture and you know that culture of someone else completely. Whereas cultural humility is reflective and a transformative way of being. It allows an individual to live out their experiences and educate us about their culture to a safe extent. It's being humble and realizing that you do not know everything and that you are not the expert on someone else's culture. Cultural humility also comes with gifts, including mutual empowerment, partnerships, optimal care, respect, and lifelong learning. So on this slide, we have a color wheel that includes various types of identifiers that we can look to do a self-awareness deep dive. As I list the various types of identifiers, think about which ones we use to define our culture and which ones we find ourselves using as defining our own identity. So identifiers include your education level, political belief, family, organizational role, language and communication skills, income, religion, appearance, work experience, age, gender identity or expression, gender, national origin, sexual orientation, mental ability, physical ability, race, and ethnicity.
Okay, and on this slide here, I have used that wheel and looked at many of my own personal identifiers. And this activity has helped me recognize more of where I'm coming from and where personal biases might be present and arise in my work. So we just encourage you all to practice this activity and explore your own identity a little bit to deepen your awareness.
So psychiatrist and anthropologist Arthur Kleinman's explanatory model lists questions listed on the slide here that providers can ask their clients to gain insight into the client's beliefs, personal and social meanings to illness or problems, their expectations and therapeutic goals, while also allowing the provider to assess their own beliefs to create shared understanding. As providers, we cannot make the assumption that our clients have the same beliefs of illness and treatment as we do, or that they have the same beliefs of illness and treatment as our other clients. So we need to find out specifically from the client we are caring for what they think. Following Kleinman's explanatory model provides us with insight that both individuals as well as groups can have vastly different notions of health, disease, and treatment. So some of the questions include, what do you think caused this problem? Or why do you think this problem started and when did it start? And what do you fear most about this illness or problem?
So I'm going to talk about a couple of examples from my practice as a nurse in various maternal child health programs. I think these examples come from um, children with special health care needs home visiting. The first example is I went and visited a family where they have a brand new baby and the baby had a cleft lip and palate. And we talked about feeding the baby and her weight gain, and we talked about all sorts of things related to baby. And then mom said, I know what caused this. And I said, what's that? And she said, well, obviously we're not right with God. They felt that they had done something to damage their relationship with God and that this was a result of that. It was hard for me to take that, but I accepted, what she said, and I did say, there's often we don't know what causes things but to happen. But that was like the first item on Kleinman's explanatory model of what do you think caused this problem. Another example is a family that had newly immigrated from Russia. And there's a little boy about 9 years old who was very sick. He had a high fever. He was, lethargic and kind of confused. And they took him to the doctor and they thought he might have a blood infection, be septic. So they were very concerned and they told the parents that they needed to go straight to Children's Hospital and have a lumbar puncture or a spinal tap to check the cerebral spinal fluid and see if the infection was in his cerebral spinal fluid. So in their experience in their country, the parents had seen time and time again that somebody who had a lumbar puncture, they typically died. They ended up dying. So they very quickly took their child home, put him to bed, and they thought that, well, hopefully he'll recover. Well, about midnight that night, the police came knocking on the door. CPS had been called, and they said, you need to go straight to Children's Hospital and get that lumbar puncture. So as it turns out, the parents did take the child to Children's, and it turns out he was okay. He did well in the end. So it's a happy ending, but that is an example of what they feared most about this problem is just part of the diagnostic workup is something they feared very much.
Okay, now we will talk about self-compassion.
So the Dalai Lama has said that if you want others to be happy, practice compassion. If you want to be happy, practice compassion. So we need to intentionally practice changing our relationship with ourselves in order to counter the habits of a lifetime. Self-criticism is not an effective motivator. It tends to undermine self-confidence and leads to a fear of failure. If we are self-compassionate, we will be motivated to reach our goals, not because we are inadequate as we are, but because we care about ourselves and want to reach our full potential. Self-compassion is the practice in which we learn to be good friends with ourselves when we need it most, to become an inner ally rather than an inner enemy.
And now we're going to watch a short video where people are talking about their experience with self-criticism versus self-compassion.
Hi, Kaz. Hi, Shelly. As you know, we are producing a course called
Balance and juggle my home life.
Talking to People Today about how they treat themselves. Do you have a critical voice? And if so, what do you find it saying to you?
I definitely have a critical voice. I think everybody does. And I think they all start from when you're a kid. So, I think all the things that my parents said, I hear, but it's normally about not doing a good job.
It's constantly stopping me as I try to complete thoughts or try to make steps forward.
It's a voice that always tells me that I'm not enough, or that I need to do better, or that there's something about me that I have to change.
When you fail or make a mistake, what types of things run through your mind?
I'm not worthy. Everybody's going to see my mistake. Nobody else makes mistakes like I do.
You're stupid. I can't believe you forgot something easy. This was basic. Why are you having so much trouble doing something so simple?
People don't want me around, that I'm uninteresting, boring, and or just too weird for people's company.
It says that I should have done better, and sometimes it says mean words about myself.
It's probably the loudest thing that's usually coming through my head before anything else is at least ring failure over and over again.
And let me give you a scenario where a friend of yours comes to you, has made a mistake, and what would you say to that friend?
Well, the first thing I would tell them that it's okay. You don't need to feel all the weight of this.
Most likely you're holding on to this more tightly than anybody else.
This in no way, reflects your character or reflects your ability to do something. Definitely a lot kinder to my friends than I am to myself.
How do you think you would change if you used that same voice that you use towards your friends on yourself during those moments of failure and mistakes?
I think it would be, incredible, because you're not going to talk to your friends the way that you talk to yourself sometimes. And I think that if you're constantly kind of reassuring yourself and letting yourself know that you are enough, then your thought process will change.
When you treat yourself like you do somebody else, you start feeling better, I think, right away, and you keep it in context much more instead of letting things be blown out of proportion.
I think I would have a lot less anxiety in my day-to-day. I think there would be kind of a weight lifted.
It would definitely make me feel better and happier, because when I usually say, when that voice that says mean stuff in my head, I'm not really happy and sad.
How could the world look differently if we were more compassionate towards ourselves?
I think the world would work better. I think through compassion and self-compassion, we all would just recognize that we're all human.
As a society, we could learn to love one another and show that love on a regular basis. I think that this world would be perfect.
There's a saying that if you love yourself, then you can love others. Well, sometimes I believe it goes in the reverse, and that if you can show that compassion that you show to others and bring it into yourself, I think that's where true growth can happen.
I think it would be magical. That's really the only word for it, magical, to be able to reflect on ourselves from a place of love rather than criticism.
Okay, so now we will take a few moments to do a discussion. You can unmute and share or type in the chat. And we just ask you to reflect and think of the last time or a recent time where you were self-critical. and share a little bit about that situation and maybe how you spoke to yourself in that situation. And then after that, we ask you to think of a time when a friend, family member, or colleague felt that they had made a mistake. And how did you treat them in that situation? What did you say to help them? And how was that different from your response to yourself?
Have a quiet bunch today. So Anne Cervantes says, I would tell them that we all make mistakes and not to be so hard on themselves. Yes. Very good.
Well, I really appreciate you.
Being kind.
I just want to say that something that I learned just recently because my son plays soccer, and one time he didn't win, and he was very upset. The whole group was very upset, and he was just blaming himself because they didn't win. So I told my son, well, either you win or you learn. Um, and I think we just need to be positive. Either we win or we lose. We just need to keep going. And the moment we stop is the moment we lose. So that's about resilience too. Just being resilient and just keep learning, keep going on. The moment we stop, I think the moment that's when we get depressed, we get all these negative ideas. So I think we just have to keep going and build resilience like that. Take it as an experience, learn.
Very good. Can you all relate to the being self-critical? That that's kind of your first response is to be self-critical when you feel like you've messed up?
I think you're also exactly.
I can share. Hey everyone. I was just reflecting on a time when I was being self-critical, and as someone who's a new young professional, I often find myself, comparing to my coworkers, my awesome coworkers at SHD, who have been here for so long and who have so much knowledge. But I realized that it's a continuous learning journey, and people are always learning about the new challenges that are coming up. So instead of being really hard on myself or maybe not being as confident as I would like to be, just challenging myself to see everything as a learning opportunity or an opportunity for growth and making those connections, I think has really helped me kind of put myself out of my comfort zone. And again, when I flip the situation and think of if a colleague were to come to me or a friend, kind of having that same feelings of imposter syndrome, I would just tell them that you have to realize that nobody is as hard on yourself as yourself, and you're the only one who really sees those mistakes, and they're probably not even mistakes that other people recognize. So yeah, again, just being really kind with yourself and compassionate and celebrating the wins along the way is very important as well.
Very good. Thank you. And Anne Hoffman said, sometimes when I'm doing a task and having a block, I go back to when I was a kid and get anxious that, oh no, I will not be able to do this task. And then I would begin to panic. Yeah, so some old feelings coming up. Yeah, that's pretty stressful and hard to turn that around, but you can write a new narrative. Change that. But yes, that's hard. Anybody else want to share? Okay, we'll talk about benefits of self-compassion. So people who are self-compassionate experience greater well-being. They experience less depression, anxiety, stress, and shame. They experience more happiness, life satisfaction, self-confidence, and physical health. And self-compassion can be learned. And cultivating self-compassion helps them to be more mindful and compassionate towards others and feel more social connectedness. I think that people worry that if you're self-compassionate, you're kind of going to be like full of yourself or just kind of arrogant, but that's really not the case at all. So there are physiological effects of self-criticism and self-compassion. Criticism releases cortisol and adrenaline, so we get that fight, flight, or freeze response. This puts stress on the mind and body. And with self-criticism, we're both the attacker and the attacked. The mammalian care system evolved to keep the young, immature baby safe during early development. This care system prompts parents and offspring to stay close to one another. When the mammalian care system is activated, oxytocin and endorphins are released, which helps reduce the stress and feelings of safety and increase feelings of safety and security. Two reliable ways of activating the care system and downregulating the stress response are soothing touch and gentle vocalizations. Compassion and self-compassion are linked to the mammalian care system. That is why being compassionate to ourselves when we feel inadequate makes us feel safe and cared for, like a child in a warm embrace. That's also why using soothing touch and listening to a calm voice in a meditation increases feelings of safety and security. Now we're going to talk about practicing soothing touch. Although it may seem awkward at first, it can be useful to harness the power of physical touch to help us trigger the compassion response. So during a meditation or a time of suffering, you can put one or two hands on your body in a warm, calming, gentle way, like maybe one hand over your heart. It can help there's a list. 2 hands on your heart. You can cradle your face in your hands. Help ourselves feel safe and comforted. Different physical gestures evoke different responses in different people. So I invite you to find a manner of physical touch that feels loving and supportive. And personally, I love the hand on the heart and the hand on the face. And now we're going to do a meditation, and you can practice soothing touch if you like.
Thank you, Sue. So I was wondering if you had any tips or suggestions here so we can practice some loving kindness for ourselves. I invite you to turn off your camera and find a comfortable position if you are not already comfortable. You can close your eyes or soften your gaze and take a few deep breaths to settle into your body and into the present moment. If you like, you can place your hand over your heart or wherever it is comforting and soothing. And this is a reminder to bring not only awareness, but loving awareness to your experience and to yourself. Notice the gentle rhythm of your breath as it moves through your body. And if you find that your attention wanders, just take notice and gently bring your awareness back to the movement of your breath. On your exhale, Release any tension you feel in your body. And now release the focus on your breath, allowing its natural rhythm to slip into the background of your awareness. And I invite you to offer yourself the following phrases with loving kindness. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I be peaceful. May I be strong. May I live with ease. And you can repeat any of the phrases that were most meaningful to you, reciting them like a mantra, allowing them to surround you, encircling yourself with love and compassion. And if it feels right, allow your body to absorb these kind words, letting them resonate within every cell of your body. And now we'll take a couple more deep breaths, noticing any sensations, offering yourself compassion, and coming home to kindness within your own body. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes and come back to the present moment. Sue, you're muted.
Thank you. Thank you, Emily. Here's a quote by Marianne Williamson. She says, "We are all meant to shine as children do. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own, automatically liberates others."
Okay, so now we will shift into talking about cultivating compassion and what that looks like.
Compassion is fueled by understanding and accepting that we're all made of strength and struggle. No one is immune to pain or suffering. Compassion is not a practice of better than or I can fix you. It is a practice based on the beauty and pain of shared humanity. And that's by Brene Brown.
Okay, so compassion is the feeling that arises when we witness another's suffering, and this motivates within us a desire to help. In Buddhist practice, it is emphasized that we must see the other as dear and worthy of our concern. And this allows for the development of a sense of connectedness with others based on our shared nature, and it fosters an appreciation and gratitude for others.
On this slide, we further detail what compassion is and what compassion is not. So compassion is kindness, the concern for one who is suffering, and the desire to support them. It is not indifference. Compassion is common humanity, recognizing that all people suffer and there's a sense of connection in this shared experience. It's not separation. Compassion is mindfulness, the balanced awareness of another's suffering without avoiding or getting lost in their experience. It's the willingness to listen and be present with them in their suffering. It is not disengagement.
And here's a slide about cultivating compassion and how does it benefit your work. It helps to have a better understanding of where clients are coming from. You have a better understanding of how to effectively engage clients and families in their care or in their education, whatever the case may be. It improves the ability to identify family and client needs and meet them appropriately. There are better client outcomes, and it also benefits coworker relationships. I want to just read a poem or a little saying by Morgan Harper Nichols. It's called Empathy. It says, "Let me hold the door for you," speaking up to coworkers. "I may have never walked a mile in your shoes, but I can see that your shoes are worn and your strength is torn under the weight of a story I have never lived before. So let me hold the door for you. After all you have walked through, it is the least that I can do."
So what gets in the way of being compassionate? There are many factors that may get in the way of us practicing compassion towards ourselves and others. Some factors include time, protocols, expectations, metrics, lack of workplace support or leadership, workload. So for example, with time, we may only get a certain amount of time with each patient, or with protocols, we might have a requirement to ask patients all of the questions on a form, which may not allow uh, time for patients to really share their full experience. Or with workload, we may feel so overwhelmed with so much work that we just try to work at the bare minimum to meet requirements, but we're not able to provide the best quality care that we desire because it takes more time.
So here are some important things to keep in mind for increasing your compassion. First, you want to notice what compassion feels like for you, and this will help you identify when it might be lacking or absent. So when you are practicing with compassion, you might notice I am taking my time with my client, I'm actively listening. If you are lacking compassion, you might notice I feel rushed or exhausted, or I'm only thinking of all the things I need to get done. So second, we want to practice meditation. And third, practicing self-compassion, which includes self-kindness, common humanity, and mindfulness. You want to keep cultural humility at the forefront. And finally, you want to understand trauma and practice trauma-informed care.
So we've talked just now about how to cultivate compassion, and the literature says the number one way is through practicing meditation. But according another way actually to cultivate compassion is to just decide and be purposeful about managing our thoughts and beliefs about people. Resisting the urge to stereotype various groups of people, even in your mind and your belief system. One very stark example of this is in the field of psychiatry and behavioral health. Many providers feel like people with the diagnosis of borderline personality disorder are just about impossible to work with. You may have thought that yourself. Some providers refuse to take a client with that diagnosis, and people with that diagnosis hesitate to accept it because of the discrimination that they may suffer. But the truth of the matter is that people with that diagnosis can be very functional, and through appropriate treatment can engage in meaningful relationships and be very happy. And if you categorize people, even in your belief system, those individuals who most likely have been treated badly by other authority figures in the past will sense this and feel judged. This will definitely affect the provider-client relationship, interactions, and the treatment outcome. It's difficult to resist the temptation to categorize. However, your work will most likely be more effective if you do. There's an interesting fact I found recently was that in Denmark, there are libraries where you can borrow a person instead of a book and listen to their life story for 30 minutes. The goal is to fight prejudice. Each person has a title such as unemployed, refugee, or bipolar, etc. And by listening to their story, you realize how much you should not judge a book by its cover. This innovative, brilliant project is active in 50 countries, and it's called the Human Library.
Okay, and we would like to share this quote from Maya Angelou that encompasses the impact of compassion. It reads, "I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel." And to recap, we have discussed and gone over the 4 strategies for building your resilience, including self-regulation, healthy and positive relationships, positive internal beliefs, and taking action. We have discussed the importance of practicing cultural humility and recognizing when personal bias may be present. And finally, we discussed cultivating compassion both for yourself and for others. So now we would like to shift into the Q&A portion and give you all the opportunity to ask any questions you might have.
Kelsey says, thank you for hosting this training. And Chantel Hamilton, this was so informative. Thank you so much for sharing this amazing information. You're welcome.
Thank you all for being here.
Mhm. Okay.
So yeah, so if no one has any questions, we actually have some questions for you. So how was this training for you? Was there anything you learned today that surprised you? What will you be taking from this training and applying to your personal and or professional life? And we also have a Survey Monkey. So if you have some time, we would appreciate if you could go to the Survey Monkey link. It should be in the chat. Let me know if you don't see it, if you need it to be sent. Yeah.
And Chantel's asking about receiving this PowerPoint. We send that out, right? We
Yes,
send
we
out the
can send.
PowerPoint. Yeah.
Yes, we can send it out in the follow-up email.
Okay. Great. Super. Jana says, I like to apply self-compassion to both my personal and professional life, including practicing good communication and listening skills. That's a great goal. That's wonderful. We kind of wanted to make the videos that we made kind of funny, so that was supposed to be enjoyable. Especially the poor listening one. So it just highlights how you shouldn't be. And Chantel says, thank you so much. You're welcome. Mariana Medina says, thank you. Yes, it was helpful. I understand the need for compassion for others, yet I will be working on practicing self-compassion, listening to myself for awareness. Great. Wonderful. Ann Hoffman said, I like this training because it really enforced how important it is for people to be healthy when they work with others. Yes, it's critical. It's actually an ethical imperative. If you don't take good care of yourself, you will actually harm people that you work with and yourself and your loved ones. And Chantel says, where can we go to receive more information on all these topics mentioned today? Do we have we don't have a reference list or bibliography, do we, for this? But
You know, we could put that together before we send this out because there are
Yeah.
some great books and resources we've referenced that
Yeah.
we encourage you to take a look at.
Yeah. One of the best resources is it's a mindful self-compassion workbook, and it's by Kristen Neff and Chris Germer, and they are they're both PhD psychologists, and they're the founder of the mindful self-compassion movement. Yeah, Ann Hoffman said, yeah, your patients and clients will be harmed. It's true. And then Chantel, I really appreciate what you do. We love what we do. Thank you. Yalitza Medina says, thank you so much. Really helpful information. I will practice deep listening intentionally. Great. And Dennis Smith says, thank you for this presentation. I really enjoyed the addition of the quotes interjected at applicable points. Great. That's awesome.
Thank you all for your feedback. We really appreciate it, and it helps guide us in our future work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you so much. We hope you have a good evening.